So thank you all for sharing in the chat, and people are still pouring in. So really excited to see the turnout and the range of folks that are here with us today. Speaking of which, who is joining us today? Based on those who registered, the top three answers to, what sector where you're working is either with a non-governmental organization, an academic institution, or local and state government. So no big surprise there, but that's the majority of the people in the room. We have organizations from Missouri and then other states and countries as well. I would say about a third of the people who registered are from the St. Louis region, and 2/3 from outside of the St. Louis region. Lots of sectors represented. And in terms of what people's role is in relation to data, working with data is my primary role, about 36% of you. And then others, most of the rest were data informs my work, but is not my primary role. And then there's always those few that say, I really have little or no interaction with data. And for our purposes here, welcome, all of you, whatever your role is. Our motto is we are all data people. We are not all data analysts, but we are all data people. And that is sort of the whole point. And one of the reasons that we're so excited about the tools that DataKind is creating and has created is that they recognize that being a data person doesn't necessarily mean that you are the one with the most technical skills. It means you have a role to play, and they make very accessible tools that can bring a lot of people around the table to think together about how to use these tools. So excited for everyone who's here with us today. So really quickly, for those of you who are new, since we have some new registrants, a quick introduction to who Data for Social Impact and DataKind are. My colleagues, Shana and Caitlin from DataKind, who you'll be hearing from shortly. And then building from the last webinar where we introduced the ladder tool and what it is to create a problem statement and think about assets. Now we're thinking how to leverage local data using the ladder tool, diving in a little bit more specifically on the ladder tool. So that's what we're focusing on for this webinar today. So as I said, I'm Jen Rose Fitzgerald. I am the program manager for Data for Social Impact. This is an initiative of the Center for Social Development at Washington University in St. Louis. And our objective, our purpose is to build connection and data capacity among social sector organizations or people working in the social sector who are working to increase their impact for and with the communities they serve. What does this look like? To us, this means cultivating collaborative and equitable data practices. What does that mean? We'll talk a little bit more about that. And I think when you see some of the examples of how the ladder tool is used, you can see how it is both a collaborative tool and it is used to think about how to approach data and with a mind towards equity and equitable data practices. So that's what we do. And our approach to doing that, just very briefly, is that we engage people working in the social sector. So through interviews, through an advisory committee, we've had a series of public roundtables, and then we have surveys for all of our events. And all of the feedback we get from those engagements shape our offerings. And I bring that up because this series was really shaped by, we had an in-person summit in May, and Rachel Wells from DataKind came and presented about some of these tools, and we had such an overwhelming response, both to that session and to the idea of these tools, that that we decided to offer this series. Sorry. So we're so pleased that DataKind has partnered with us to bring you what you're asking for more of, and that's how we came to offer this series. For those who didn't make the first one, if you want to go to the next slide, the first series, which was in September, and if you missed that, we can still share the recording with you. I think Shane is going to put that in the chat and in the follow-up email. But in the first series, we looked at how to identify problems and assets as well, and to form a programmatic or funding question. So how do you think about how you might use data, and how what kind of impact you want to have with the data that you're using? So it sort of set the stage for today. where we're going to get a little bit more high-level training on ladder. And so whether you came to that first training or not, you'll be able to jump right in here. And then just a quick note that we have 2 more sessions in the series. If you really want to roll up your sleeves and do a really deep dive in ladder after today, we have a session on November 18th. And then finally in December, we have a roundtable where we'll sort of talk about, people can share examples of how they are using it and have a conversation about the implications and what you've learned. So that is the series in a nutshell. Quick reminder about the webinar. So we choose to use this format rather than a webinar where nobody can see each other, because we want to have opportunities for you all to talk and to share. So those will be built in, but we have muted your microphones. Please keep your microphones muted until it is time for those exchanges. And then we will have Q&A. You can also put Q&A in the chat here. And we will be sending a recording. So that will be a question a lot of people ask. So I'm answering it now. And we hope you will attend as many of the webinars as you can, and we'll share with others. No requirement to have attended a previous one in order to show up at any of these webinars. They're all ready to go. Come as you are. And the next thing, I suppose, is we have a quick poll before we jump in. So I'm going to pass the microphone to Shayna Lee from DataKind, and who will ask you a quick question about what tools you already use, if any.
Yes. Hi. Thanks everyone for joining today. And I see you are already ready to dive in. This is our question we wanted to ask of you before sharing a little bit about Ladder. We want to know, how often do you use mapping analysis tools? Never. This is my first time. I don't know what you're talking about. Rarely, sometimes. Or actually, I use mapping analysis tool often. There's no right or wrong answer on this. And in fact, your response to this poll will be anonymous. This is just to help us guide and understand the audience that's coming to us today. So we'll give it a couple more seconds for folks to share their thoughts. For those of you that have used mapping analysis tools, would love to have you share within the chat some examples of tools that you have utilized. So feel free to do that. We'll go ahead and end the poll. It looks like we're slowing down. Okay, so we're going to end the poll and share results. Okay, so you all may be able to see it's a pretty good breakout where some of you joining. This is new for you. So again, welcome. We're excited to have you here and share a little bit more about the tool. For those that have used mapping analysis tools, that's great, even if it was on a rare occasion. For those of you that use it often, that's also amazing as well. And again, this is all in the spirit of bringing us together collectively to think through tools that we can utilize in our communities. So with that said, I am going to stop the poll, and then I'm going to stop share and turn it over to my amazing colleague, Caitlin, to share a little bit about our tool, Ladder.
Excellent. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world and when you're watching this. Thrilled to be here today to talk with you about data tools for everyone. I'm Caitlin Augustine. I'm the Vice President of Product and Programs at DataKind. And probably the best part of my job is conversations like this where we can build data capacity and to start to see these tools in action leading to impact in communities. So thrilled that this is the start of my journey with you all, and looking forward to connecting with you over the coming webinars. And I'll do an immediate plug that DataKind's conversations do not stop here. So I've already seen in the chat, people are eager to use these tools. Please reach out to Shayna or I for one-on-one conversations to make sure that we're getting you engaged and using these solutions. All right, you've already heard the webinar reminders. So again, really hoping this is interactive, certainly for Q&A at the end, but would love as we go through, please to continue to put your questions, your thoughts in the chat as we go. And all of the materials, including the demo data sets that I'll be going through in this conversation will be included in the email. So please don't feel like you have to take screenshots as you go and capture every bit of information. So all right, so just what I'm going to run through, just a quick reintroduction to who we are at DataKind and a little bit about webinar one, though Jen Rose gave a great preview there. Talk to you about why we built Ladder, a little bit about best practices for using these types of mapping tools. And then I'm going to go through 3 use case examples with the Ladder tool, and then a little bit of next steps and what is going to be covered in the 90-minute real hands-on conversation happening in November. All right, so a quick reintroduction to DataKind. We are a global nonprofit organization. We're focused on using data, technology, and AI for positive social impact. We've been around for nearly 15 years. We've partnered with over 450 organizations worldwide to build and use data and technology solutions that have led to positive social good in those communities. And about 5 years ago, we made the evolution toward not just doing one-to-one solution building, but actually building products at a digital public good level to make them accessible widely. And we're really thrilled that you've found us and you've come into this conversation. Because for us at DataKind, success is not just that we have built a tool and we've put it out in the world. Success is actually that we have built a data-driven solution and it's adopted widely and it's contributed positively to solving those sector level problems. So our success is your success. It's not enough for us to just build this, do a webinar, throw it over the fence. We want to engage with you and support you into meaningful use of these technologies. We at DataKind build our solutions to be human-centered, actionable, cost-efficient, and trustworthy. And what that means is we know we are building for social impact. We are building for users like yourselves. You're representing nonprofits, governments, social impact organizations, and you're handling sensitive situations, sensitive data. In many cases, you could be encountering people on the hardest days of their lives. How do we build tools that truly center the human experience, not just of the user, but of the individual who is impacted by the outputs of those results? We focus on building information that is actionable. We realize we could make hundreds of data points available to you. We want to ensure that the information we are providing to you is actionable and interpretable. Our solutions need to be cost efficient. What that means is not only that these are free to use as tools to you, but we are also using the best in class technologies to make them long-term sustainable. And our solutions are built with secured by design practices, which are both from a data security perspective, but also ensuring a human is in the loop on any outputs. We do not want anything to feel like it's just a black box. All right, webinar one, you already saw this slide, but it was the start of this. How do we begin to define these local level problems and identify those data assets at a community local level to enable us to then turn that information into action through analysis? Now, this session, we're going to start to go in deep to those tools, and we'll continue that hands-on approach over the coming weeks. I know this has been shared, but just mentioning again, you can access the webinar. It's visible through YouTube, and the link has been shared. Okay, meat and potatoes, and we've hit it in less than 20 minutes into the session. But what is Ladder? We've been talking about this, ladderhub.org. So Ladder actually was born through conversations like this one. In 2023, we started at a local level in Central Florida with this question: could we look at local data to identify regions where there was a high need for local initiative support, but there was low coverage of that support, so that the individuals working in that community could better reach those who were experiencing food insecurity with resources? And the answer was yes, we could do that in 2023. We could build a number of these excellent point-in-time maps to show that information. But that turned into an ambitious vision. We don't just need to know this information at a point in time. We need this, and we don't need to know it just in one location. This is a type of information that needs to be widely accessible across the United States, because so many actors are trying to answer these questions of how can we provide services across our communities. So we had then an ambitious vision that we've worked on over the past 18 months. Could we build a commercial competitive free tool that would enable that fostering of understanding of community needs and the factors influencing them in a way that would enable collaboration toward that community impact? Um, and the answer is yes. And we built the tool Ladder. I know you've seen it before. I'll just quickly put the link in the chat again, though. Ladder is a tool that is built right now from 12 different data sources with over 50 indicators and over 6 million rows of data down to the census tract level to provide that very local set of insights and information on what is happening in a community. And the reason we focus so closely on local data is because this gives relevant insights to community-specific challenges. Looking at data aggregated at the county, the zip code, the state level gives a big trend, gives you that top level, but local data lets us go deeper into what's happening in my neighborhood, in my few block radius. It gives us then information for more accurate, better targeted and context-aware decisions. And by using that local information, we can increase our community trust and our credibility through local collaboration. And some examples of what has happened by using hyperlocal data through DataKind's partnerships is we were able to have a partnership that our local tools around environmental justice or environmental pollution led an environmental justice organization to identify where cancerous toxin releases were happening in their neighborhoods in a community in Texas. Or in Central Florida, which is my hometown, we were able to partner with Representative Ana Escamani to help over 600 homes have access to rental assistance because we were able to identify them at a very local level for that support. Or in New York City, through a partnership with the MTA, identify areas where Vision Zero could take interventions by identifying places where there were high likelihood of traffic fatalities and traffic crashes, by again bringing that local level data together to inform action. So in terms of the Ladder product, and I think this is what we're going to cover over the coming weeks. We're going to talk about the now situation today. So in terms of the product, right now you have an individual account, and we'll go through that. You can do public analysis. You can also upload your own private data. You can form a team, and you can share data within your team. And as we continue active development on this tool, so this is also a quick plug. This tool is in active development. We read every piece of feedback. We expect you will have a lot of feedback. Share it so that we can continue to improve this product. We are moving toward data exports, additional boundaries, additional data sets, and ultimately looking toward things like API access. So I'm going to just quickly touch on teams, which we understand to be a real value proposition here. We'll go deeper into teams next session. But teams are a key differentiator of the Ladder product because we know data exists in silos, both within and across institutions. And without having access to that data, it's hard to make a data-driven decision with the whole picture. And team functionality is mostly only available with commercial tools that have paid licenses, and they don't often intersect with each other. So Ladder being a free tool, it helps remove those barriers. And this was the first new piece of functionality we added into Ladder because it was identified as being a game changer through conversations and surveys like the ones that Shayna's been sharing in the chat. What you'll be able to do with a team is you can create them, you can invite people, you can share data, unshare data, view data in a team, join a team you're invited to, leave a team, and delete the data. I mention all this again because I'm going to show you how you can start to use analysis, but analysis typically only works if you can share that information with others. And so highlighting the team function is a key way to do that. Because we are talking about both public and private data, just to note for you, DataKind is the tool owner and the steward for Ladder, but you are always the owner of your uploaded data, and you can only share data within your team. And the data is secured as encrypted at rest, meaning that it's not actually directly queryable either. Before we jump into our examples, I'm going to cover just quickly a couple of best practices for using data tools. So first thing is we're talking about using data and we're talking about you uploading your own data. So some things to think about when you are using a data tool is the accuracy of the data. You know, not all data is going to be perfect, but is it acceptable for your purposes? Is it comprehensive? Do you have an understanding of who and what is represented in that data set? Is it reliable data? You know, is it from a reputable source? Was it collected responsibly? Is it accessible and reusable? Thinking about relevance, do you really need the information? Does it actually inform your analysis? Or is it just yet another piece of information? And then timeliness, right? Is it up to date? What can the data be used for? So really understanding all of this before you go into a data solution. I will say for Ladder, we are actively updating data sets as new ones come online. So we are always aiming to show the most current release of data sets. Now, for all of us working in the public good space, you know that this could be updates that are on a 1 to 2 year delay. So noting that, but that is our aim with this tool. When you upload data to Ladder or any other mapping or analysis tool, you want to prepare your data, right? You want to remove sensitive information where possible. You want to minimize what data you're uploading. You want to ensure you have the rights to your data, that your data is following the principle of least privilege, and that you're able to report any data issues. And my final note here is that when you are forming your team, your organizational unit within Ladder means you can invite individuals who exist in other companies, other organizations. So your data is always shared within the organization you define, but that could cross companies. For example, I at DataKind could be sharing data with Jen Rose at DSI. We would exist in the same organization within Ladder, but we're obviously different companies, and we need to make sure that we have appropriate data sharing positions in place. Okay, now about 30 minutes left here. We're going to go through examples within the Ladder tool itself. So I'm going to start from a problem statement. And reminder, if you missed the first session in this webinar series was really focused on forming these problem statements. So my problem statement I'm going to start with is that I want to collaborate with federally qualified healthcare centers in St. Louis to encourage utilization of those services within my local neighborhoods. So the community level that I'm going to define is I'm going to work at the census tract level, and I'm looking primarily at the zip code 63103 within St. Louis. What do I want to do with my information that I'm collecting, right? I want to understand information and the intersection of insurance coverage and the total population in order to better inform potential service needs and service locations for my federally qualified health centers. And I want to have a plan to collect this information. So some of this data exists publicly in Ladder. Other data is uploaded data that my team has collected for upload. And you're able to access this example data here through the example data set, and that's what I'm going to run through in this example. So how do I actually do this? Well, I navigate to Ladder. I'll quickly note for you that if you haven't signed up for Ladder, you can click sign up. You have the option to type in name, email address, password in here, or you can do a single sign on with either your Google account or your Microsoft account. I already have an address, so I'm going to go to sign in here. And I'm going to use, this case, I have a test account set up. So I'm going to click log in. When I log in to Ladder, it defaults to having location services on, and it will center the map to where you are located in the world. I'm located in Orlando, Florida, which is why Ladder has centered on me here. Now, how do you actually use this tool? I'll just note for you, when you have an account, you have a profile page. So you have your name and your email. You can edit those. You can change your password here. You can enable two-factor authentication. If you have logged in, say in a classroom to do a demo situation, you have this option to log out from other browsers. You can set up teams, and you could add more teams if you need. I happen to be a part of a demo team right here, and you always have the option to delete your account. Other things to note before we run into the example, in your footer here, you have the latest version of the release of the product. You have the data dictionary, which gives you detail as to each of the fields in this product. You also have your FAQs, which gives you a sense for what is being updated, what is being worked on, how to use the tool, licensing, terms of service, privacy policy. So all of that information is accessible to you there. And now I'm going to go into my example. So I said I wanted to understand the relationship between the locations of federally qualified healthcare centers in St. Louis, Missouri, in relation to information around the insurance coverage for individuals in that community and the overall population density. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll just mention to you, you can pick boundaries at a couple of different levels. Since I'm looking at the census tract level, I can see all this information. I know I don't have data in this tool that covers those healthcare facilities, so I need to upload that data. So I'm going to click the upload button. When you upload, you can drag a file, or you can click upload for that file. So let me just do that. I'm clicking upload, and I have this saved on my desktop, so I'm uploading. When you go to upload your data into Ladder, you immediately get this preview, which gives you a sense of, hey, was this actually the data that I wanted to upload? So this is a preview of the file I just put in. Ladder can take in CSV files. It can also take in Excel files. Strong suggestion is to use a CSV because that removes any formatting that could cause sort of upload problems. And when you are uploading data, you have the ability to either add a new indicator or upload to an existing indicator. I'm going to go through the example of adding a new indicator here. But to add to an existing indicator, this might say, in a month's time, I wanted to update my list of qualified health facilities. I would use the upload to an existing indicator, and it would only add new data points into that account. Now, when I go to upload information, I have the option to select the geography type. So I can upload data at an individual address level. I can also upload data at a county level, a zip code level, or a census tract level. I'm going to upload data at an address level. I have to define the source. So I'm going to say this is demo data. So I'm just going to call it demo source, and I'm going to say the year is 2025. And I then need to map to what my data is. So my address details, I get to name what the site is. So this is how the piece of information will be identified in my map. So I'm going to say this is the facility name, is the site name. The street is my field, that is the address. My city information is my city information. My state information is my state information. And my zip code is my zip. Now I get to name my indicator. So I'm going to say this is demo, better qualified healthcare facilities, just to make it easy to identify. And for values here, I'm going to say I'm just picking the location. So I just want to see dots on a map of these locations. But if I had information in my data set, say number of healthcare providers working at each of these facilities, I could pick that as a value, and then the size of my individual points would be relatively sized to each other. So you'd be able to see where, say, the most healthcare providers were working within my data set. I'm going to pick my domain. In this case, this is healthcare data. So I'm going to select that. My units, it's just location only data, and I can add in notes. And so in this case, I'm going to add in the phone number to pop up as notes so that on my map, I'll be able to see the phone number for these particular locations. And I click this button, run validation. And when I see with my validated data, each of my locations has been located on this map. So each of my locations has been successfully geocoded. Now, at this point, you could download this if you wanted to, and you'd have each of the geocoded pieces of information there. If our geocoder couldn't find an address, it would show up here in the exceptions area, and you'd have a list of locations that were not found and a reason why. And it could be, the address was not found, it doesn't exist. This is a really quick way to then see maybe where you had a typo or something in your data set, and it's a quick way to troubleshoot. Okay, so now I've seen my data, it's validated. I'm going to click upload indicators, and it's gone through, and I have this map data is successfully created for this tool. So I'm going to click get started. I'm still just in my location here, but now I want to create my map here. So I'm going to say, because I said I wanted to work at the census tract level, I'm going to go to the census tract, and then I'm going to pull that healthcare information around insurance. So I open up all of my potential indicators. In this case, I'm looking at my health indicators, and I want to use the current lack of health insurance among adults as a data point, because that will give me a sense for where do individuals live where they don't have health insurance and they might benefit from additional outreach services. Now, I also want to understand population density. So I'm going to close up health and then open up population. And I'm going to look at in here population density, and I'm going to use the total population of our geography here. And then I'm also going to go now to the address space indicators where I just put my uploaded data. So I'm going to open up health here, and this is the uploaded data I just used, my demo data. So I'm going to add that to my map as well. And right now, again, the tool defaults to your geography. So you're seeing me in Orlando. So I need to go and actually take a look at St. Louis. So we're going to zoom on over. And I did see a question pop up in the chat, and it might have already been answered, but just to note, right now, all of this data the public data only exists for the United States. It certainly is a tool that you could use in other geographies, but you do not have public data available. Okay, so I'm in St. Louis here, and now you can see in my map where each of these dots are the healthcare facilities I just uploaded. And if I hover over them, you can see this one was called Comp1. There's its address, and the notes have the phone number. If I'm over here, you can see, let's see, get a couple of other ones. We have the Athena healthcare. Again, there's the address and then the phone number. Now, what I might want to do here is and I've just zoomed in a bit, because I have my information at this census tract level, and I'm starting to see the intersection of where there is high population and high lack of health insurance. So this is called a bivariate choropleth map, but it's essentially a heat map showing the intersection of two different variables. So we have in red from low to high the count of the total population, with the highest population in a census tract over here of 8,000. And then we have the current lack of health insurance as the percentage of the population in that census tract, going up to 30% there. And so looking at our map, where we might suggest saying, okay, we can see where these health facilities are, but if we wanted to offer more community services, we might look for areas where there's a high population count, so high, like a population density, but also a high population of uninsured individuals. So we could see in this map, maybe we have this triangle of support here just off of Route 55, but there's this census tract in the middle where we have a pretty high population. We have about 5,000 people, and about 20% of the adults don't have health insurance. And that's kind of situated right in the middle of three different healthcare service areas, meaning maybe it's an area that different direct services could be provided. So that is an example of how we can use ladder to help us start to understand a decision information. And as you hover over census tracts, you see the indicator for the census tract and the variables that you put forward. You have the option at this level to also download the data that's represented in the map, as well as downloading the image of the map itself. So those are two key ways that you can then take this insight out of the ladder tool and into other pieces of information. I'm also going to just quickly show you that since I added this indicator, I can come over to my profile and I can click on indicators, and you can actually see all the different things I've uploaded here. And this is my most recent one. This demo, I can see I uploaded it on 10/28. And right now, this information is not shared to my team at all, but I could click share and it would share to my team. So anyone who was on my team could also have access to that data I uploaded. And if I clicked revoke share, I can pull it away again. I also have the option to click delete. And when I delete, I get a message saying, do you want to delete this? If I went to delete data that was shared, it'll actually give a flag that deleting that data will remove it for the entire team. So those are other just helpful wayfaring for how you might use this tool. So back to my slides. So I mentioned this is the process I wanted to go through. This is what I took you through. So I selected the census tract. I pulled these different indicators in. I brought in my uploaded data and I searched for it. And then I'll just show you again, screenshot here of the type of analysis I was interested in, trying to see those areas that had high population with high uninsured coverage to identify areas where perhaps I would try to send like mobile health clinics in to provide support. All right, about 15 minutes left. I have two more examples to give you, and I'm just going to quickly, I know there's been a pretty active chat here. Seeing it, okay. So I'm going to give you another example, this time with uploading census tract information. So in this case, I want to identify where CDFI, which is Community Development Financing Institution lending, so lending that is designed for community financing that perhaps isn't where businesses or individuals cannot access commercial banking solutions. I want to see where this is occurring in my county in comparison to, say, household income. So I could see if there are areas where there's if the lending is going into areas of greatest need. So I specifically want to be able to identify areas where there's high investment, but a lower income, because that's where I want to focus on understanding the economic impact. So what I'm going to do here, so I'm going to use St. Louis County, Missouri, which for the few of us on the call who don't live in St. Louis, noting this is actually surrounding St. Louis, the city. I want to, in this case, compare CDFI lending and median household income. I am pulling in information on CDFI lending, so that is my external data. And I'm going to use Ladder to assess this. And just to reiterate a comment that was in the questions, you do not need to have your data already geocoded. That is a big part of what Ladder does. It geocodes your data for you. And we use the census geocoder as the backend geocoding function of our tool. So again, I'm going to go through my data upload process, and this time I'm uploading data at not at an individual level. So I'm going to pull in my CDFI data here, and you can see that the information I have here is I have a geo ID, I have what year it came from, I have the state, I have these FIPS codes, which are identifiers for the different geographies. I'm going to do it as adding a new indicator for upload. This time I'm selecting census tract. I'm going to call this demo CDFI just for ease, and it's 2020. And I'm going to, what my census FIPS code is, it's my geo ID here. And my indicator is CDFI lending. And my values here, I'm going to say, so I have a couple of different opportunities for my data set, but I'm looking for my total CDFI lending in my data set. And what domain, I'm going to stick this in the other domain here. I'm pulling in, I'll just say I'm pulling in integer data, my total. I'm going to say, I also want to flag if this is an opportunity zone or not. I'm going to run my validation. And one thing you can see here, and this is because census tract information has changed over time, so we don't have a perfect match, but you can see some of my exceptions popped up. So this was not matching there, but it's good enough for this example. So I'm going to go with uploading it. So if I process my data, I've created a map successfully. So I'm going to click get started. I go allow. So in this case, I'm going to close this out. I'm working with data at the census tract level, and I uploaded data to the census tract level. So if I go into other, I have this example data that I just uploaded, my CDFI lending. It's from 2020. It's my demo. So I'm clicking that information. So it's stored in the same boundary-based indicator area. And I also want to have population information, and I'm going to pull median household income. So those are my two numbers that I'm looking for. And right now, I'll just quickly note for you, I uploaded data that is only for St. Louis. So my map is defaulted to Florida. You can see I actually have no data showing up here at all for CDFI lending because that data doesn't exist for this geography. So I'm going to go over to St. Louis, zoom on over, name. Takes a second to map on up. All right, so now you can see I do have CDFI lending information, and in this zoom from 0 to 380,000, if I actually zoom out a little bit, it'll get to a larger number here. And then I have my household income information ranging from about median household income from 15,000 to 156,000. So what I want to see here is I want to see information on high lending, but relatively low household income, because that is my hypothesis is that greater investments into those lower income areas sparks economic opportunities. And so I can start to just look at my map and do that investigation and start to see where is that lending happening. And I can see communities like this one where we have different kind of lending patterns that we maybe have. In this case, we're seeing some high lending, but low but also high income. We're looking for some of those inverses. So like this community, we actually had about $1 million in lending, but only about $70,000 household income. So that could be like one of my spark areas for engagement and interest. So again, just the process of how you upload the data and how you find it on your map. And then, kind of finding those hotspot opportunities. Let me just quickly see in the chat here. I think Shayna is answering this. Yeah, underlying geocoder, it's the US Census geocoder tool. Okay, final example, last 10 minutes here. This is just using the public information, so no upload. But in this case, looking at the percentage of households that receive SNAP, timely discussion at the moment, and adults with fair to poor self-reported health status, because we want to understand food access and health as an intersection in geographies that you consider. So in this case, I'm going to do this looking at Clark County, which is covers Reno, Nevada. So again, I'm going to go over to my mapping tool, and I'm going to do census tract again, though again, you could pick another geography here. And I'm going to select the fair or poor self-identified health status. And then I'm going to go into nutrition, and I'm going to go with percentage of households receiving SNAP here. And then I'm going to go and look for, as soon as it loads. Oh, well, we have it populating for St. Louis, but I'm going to pull over to Reno just to show you what that kind of looks like. So another geography, and we can zoom in a little bit more and starting to look at, again, that intersection of where we see high fair to poor health status and a high percentage of households receiving SNAP benefits. And so these are kind of these darker magenta. And so like this, as an example, in this census tract 2703, we see that nearly 34% of adults have identified poor health statuses, and about 23% of households are receiving SNAP. So if we were trying to target like food as medicine programs, perhaps that would be a community we would want to target. And again, you can kind of mouse over a number of these and identify those particular geographies. All right, that's a whistle stop tour. And the intent was to show you functionality here within the ladder tool across a couple of different example types. In the, and again, just the mapping here, in the next webinar, you will go deeper into each of these types of examples. You'll have the option to workshop more of your own data, and you'll also get more information around the teaming function and how you can form teams and convey information within that as well. We have a feedback form, and I know comments again in the chat. Please give us your feedback. This is things that you want to see, things that you hope to see, things that are bugs. This is a product in active development. So please give us your feedback. And then also, know that DataKind, again, our success is when you succeed. So we want to support you in, deploying this within your institutional context. We know that that will involve stakeholder buy-in. It'll be alignment with your institutional policies. It will require ongoing training and support. So please reach out to our team for that support and engagement. And also, again, we want this tool to be successful. So if you want to report to us about how it's helped you, how it hasn't helped you. We want to partner on evaluation of this tool and how it works. So please, again, if that is of interest to you, connect with us about that. Um, and a reminder, again, there are 2 more webinars where we're going to go in far greater depth around how Ladder works and functions here. So with that, I know a number of questions have been popping up in the Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing and hop on over to that. So
Yes, and
um,
Caitlin, before we
yeah.
get to Q&A, we just wanted to launch a quick poll just based on what you heard today. We'd love to hear your thoughts on if your knowledge around this topic has changed as a result of the event. Feel free to weigh in and put your comments in. As you have questions, and we're about to get over to that, you'll have time to do that. We did answer some already, but already seeing folks chime in. Has your knowledge with the topic changed as a result of today's event? And we'll share those results anonymously in just a moment. In the meantime, you can still feel free to put questions in the Q&A portion. Great. Okay, it's slowing down. We're going to end the poll. It looks like the majority of you have noted that your knowledge has increased. So that's great. We're always hoping to add additional insights and knowledge. And then finally, we'll have one more before we get to our questions. So the next one, how likely are you to incorporate what you learned into your work? No right or wrong answer. Again, anonymous responses if you'd like to respond to that and share with us your thoughts. This is a part of really just collecting that feedback, and it'll also help inform our next webinar coming up where we do a deeper dive already. So we'll give that just a moment. Okay, we have folks chiming in, and we'll go ahead and end the poll. We'll share the results and then we'll get into some Q&A because you all have had some great ones. So let's see. It looks like we've gotten some responses across the board. Very likely, likely, somewhat likely. There's a vote for not at all. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. We want to get a sense of how you're coming in and receiving this information. So with that said, Caitlin, yes, we will take a look at the questions that have come in, which I saw some really good ones, and some we tried to answer already. Let's see, there's a good question around, do you have a data dictionary that defines fields for upload information, like upload source? I'll start off with this, or Caitlin, feel free to chime in on
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So any piece of data that you add to Ladder shows up for in your data dictionary for you with as much source as information. So you define what your source was. So for example, where you got that information. And that shows up in the data dictionary. And rather than having a globe next to it, it has a lock next to it, meaning that it's private to you and whoever you share it to. Um, so that's quickly there. Looking at this information, so Sal had asked about ACS census data. So there is quite a lot of ACS and census data in the tool already. Glad to add more as we we see a need and an interest. So please use the feedback comment to offer additional suggestions of indicators that would be helpful. Um, again, some amount of race, ethnicity, and language are in there. More could be added. You can't, because we only have 3 minutes here, I'm just going to quickly kind of rattle through as many of these as possible. Cannot currently select a filter for specific colors in the heat map. However, and we'll go through this next time, you can use adjustable filters to filter to a value range. So say you only wanted to look at households that had 20% or more of the households in a given geography were, say, lacked health insurance, you could use that type of filter, which would change what is visible on the map. Um, Jackie asked, can you define a regional area instead of using census tracts? No, you can only use the boundaries as defined right now or use the address uploader. And guidance around personally identifiable information. So this is a tool for you. We can share more about the data security. I think it's also listed in the FAQs. This tool is FERPA, HIPAA, and GDPR compliant. So your data storage is secure, and it is up to your institutional policy for how you use public tools. So your institution likely has some guidance for how, say, you might purchase a commercial product like Tableau and what type of data would go in that. That would be the starting point for how you would evaluate using this type of tool as well. Let's see what else. Maybe I'll answer one or two more. More upload types available. Again, looking for your feedback to see if it's what is most interesting or helpful. Zinnia asks about disabling the pop-up window. You cannot, but I will also share your feedback that I found it to be challenging to take screenshots of particular census tracts as it popped up. So I expect we will put that into our development path as we go forward. I think any more questions, we'll be sure to answer them in our follow-up email. So please stay tuned. We'll also cover many of them in the next webinar. And with that, I think I'll hand it back to Jen Rose to close us out.
Or yeah, no worries. I'm happy to do that on behalf of the team. Thank you so much. This was such a robustly engaged webinar. You all asked such great questions. As mentioned, we'll share the recording and slides in the next day with you all. Feel free to explore Ladder. And like Caitlin said, welcome to share feedback, any suggestions you have, and join us at our next webinar. This doesn't stop here. November 18th, we're going to do a deeper dive, learning more about the teaming functions and going through some exercises as well. So you have our contact information that you see here. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and please expect to get that post-event email with all of the details. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.